Okay, thank you. Welcome everyone to the October regular board meeting of Northwestern Lehigh School District. And we will begin with opening exercises. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, and please be seated. And Mrs. Pertinian, would you please call the roll?
Don Cassiano,
Here.
Willard Delaker,
Here.
Joseph Matzinger,
Present.
Todd Hernandez,
Here.
Todd Weiser,
Here.
Rosemary Lister. Here. Alan Rex,
Here.
Rachel Scheffler. Here. And James Warfel.
Here. Thank you. We have an agenda with no changes, I don't believe, nothing in front of us, and I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Patzinger, second by Mr. Rex. Any comments or questions? Hearing none. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Again, welcome to all who have joined us this evening. At this time, we offer courtesy of floor to anyone who would like to address the board. If you would, please raise your hand on your Zoom device, and Dr. Sisnovic will pipe you into the meeting. All right,
I do see one,
we have one.
yes.
Okay.
You will need to allow her to talk.
We have one waiting to address the board, and we are.
Mrs. Fattinger, you have the floor.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. As you saw, my name's Amy Fatzinger. I'm a mother of two boys at Weisenberg Elementary School in first and in fourth grade. While I think the teachers are doing an exceptional job at Weisenberg Elementary, I'm still wondering if we are, or if we have a plan, or if we have a discussion in place for any upcoming information or changes to how education will continue hybrid versus face-to-face full-time. And like I said, despite the efforts of the teachers who are just doing a wonderful job, I know it's a challenging time for everyone. I'm a teacher as well, so I am currently teaching from home while trying to educate a first grader makes things extremely impossible. I'm relying on my parents to help me. I'm relying on my sister-in-law to help me. It's not something he can do on his own being a first grader. And I'm wondering if there's any discussion happening tonight for a reopening plan. I know that the hybrid program was to take place through the first marking period. I do not see or am not aware of another board meeting to change or approve between now and November 6th, which would have been the end of the hybrid plan. I just feel that the quality of education has dropped significantly in the school district. I don't feel my children are receiving a quality education. You're relying on parents to provide the education. You're relying on daycare providers to provide an education. You know, anyone that has help at home, and being a full-time mom and a full-time teacher, I am struggling with how and why I'm continuing to do this at home. So I'm just wondering if there's a discussion happening tonight based on a reopening plan. Is there any consideration for a phasing in, starting with kindergarten and moving through first grade? I know there's a lot of local schools in our area that are comparable in size to us that are open face-to-face and have the option of full online for those who are not willing to go back face-to-face full-time. And I feel we've done the hybrid option. We've catered to both side or to one side. And I feel like it's time to have some sort of discussion to kind of alleviate this pressure that's being placed on the parents to provide the education for our children. And I'm hoping that that's not going to happen the weekend before, the day before, you know, the week before, like what happened in the summer, and everyone's left scrambling to come up with what's the next step and how is this going to continue. I just feel like there's so many rules and restrictions in place at the elementary schools. There's no interactive play, and there's no imaginative play. Even outdoor play is limited to who they can play with. And these are all ways that students learn. This is best practice. This is a quality education. And I don't see that happening anymore at Weisenberg based on district policies, not based on what the teachers are doing. So I'm just struggling with the thought of this continuing much longer.
Thank you, Mrs. Fatsinger, for your concerns. And yeah, we will have a discussion this evening during the board president's report. And I want to reassure you that our administrators, our teachers are looking at our situation daily to try to come to grips with where we are and the requirements we have to work within. And in the hopes of coming back full-time as soon as possible. We will be discussing this later in the agenda, shortly in the agenda. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Is there anybody else, Dr. Sisnelli?
There is. I'm letting them in now. Kimberly Hyman.
Hi, yes, thank you very much. My name is Kimberly Hyman. I am the Board of Trustees President for Circle of Seasons Charter School at 8380 Moore Lane in Fogelsville. And I thank you for taking my comment. I just wanted to thank Northwestern Lehigh School District for giving us the pleasure of applying for a charter renewal. We greatly appreciate the opportunity and the thoughtfulness of you looking at our packet when we turn it in shortly. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone? That's all who are waiting?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you for joining us this evening and for commenting to the board with your concerns. And thank you, Mrs. Hyman, for bringing this to our attention. It is on our docket for review. Circle of Season, that is. Okay, let's move on to approval of the minutes next on the agenda. And this would be the minutes from the September 16th board meeting, the October 7th special meeting, which were interviews of candidates to fill a vacancy here on the board, and the October 7th workshop meeting. And I would entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Patsy.
Second.
Second by Mrs. Scheffler. Comments or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. At this time, I would like to turn the meeting over to Mrs. Holman. We have 3 retirements that we would like to recognize this evening of some loyal employees at Northwestern Lehigh School District. Mrs. Holman.
Thank you. I will actually turn this over to Mrs. Matika. I think at least 2, maybe 3 of the employees are online with us this evening. So I will turn it over to Mrs. Matika to do the introduction.
Thank you, Mrs. Holman. Yes, I expect 3 employees to be online tonight. And I'll start with Mr. Oates, who will read the retirement resolutions for both Kim Boardman and Harley Newman. Art, are you there?
I'm here. Thank you. Okay, for no particular order, I'm gonna start with Harley Newman. In grateful recognition of 16 years of the Northwestern Lehigh School District, whereas Mr. Newman has completed 16 years of distinguished black and gold service as a bus driver at Northwestern Lehigh School District, whereas Mr. Newman understood the needs of each of his students, transported them safely to school and home each day, whereas Mr. Newman provided exceptional dedication to his profession and was respected by his fellow staff members. Whereas Mr. Newman routinely went above and beyond to ensure the safety of all students during fair and inclement weather. Whereas Mr. Newman has always helped students learn and understand the importance of safety when riding in a school bus. Whereas Mr. Newman understood the meaning of a school community and supported students, parents, and staff at Northwestern Lehigh School District. Whereas Mr. Newman leaves as a transportation employee, knowing that he provided compassion, support, safety, professionalism, kindness, and tiger pride. Therefore, be it resolved that the School Board of Directors of the Northwestern Lehigh School District tenders Harley Newman the sincere thanks and appreciation of the board for his commitment and dedication on behalf of our schools and Northwestern family, and be it resolved further that this resolution be made a permanent part of the record of this public meeting. Okay,
And do you have Kim Borgman's resolution?
I do as well. Thank you.
I do not see it.
This recognition is presented to Kim Borgman in grateful recognition of 19 years of service to the Northwestern Lehigh School District, whereas Ms. Borgman has completed 19 years of distinguished black and gold service as a bus driver and trainer at Northwestern Lehigh School District. Whereas Ms. Borgman understood the needs of each of her students, transported them safely to school and home each day. Whereas Ms. Borgman provided exceptional dedication to her profession and was greatly respected by her fellow staff members. Whereas Ms. Borgman routinely went above and beyond to ensure the safety of all students during fair and inclement weather. Whereas Ms. Borgman always helped students learn and understand the importance of safety and riding in a school bus. Whereas Ms. Borgman understood the meaning of school community and supported students, parents, and staff at Northwestern Lehigh School District. Whereas Ms. Borgman leaves as a transportation employee knowing that she provided compassion, support, safety, professionalism, kindness, and tiger pride. Therefore, be it resolved that the School Board of Directors of Northwestern Lehigh School District tenders Kim Borgman a sincere thanks and appreciation of the board for her commitment and dedication on behalf of our schools and the Northwestern family. And be it resolved further that the resolution be made a permanent part of the record of this public meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Oakes. The final resolution tonight is for Pamela Tonke, being retired this summer as a high school special education teacher. And I believe Mrs. Yadish will read the resolution. And I understand Pam is online. Hi, Pam.
Yes. Hi.
Mrs. Yadish.
Hi, Pam. I'm very happy to recognize Pam Tonke this evening. This resolution is presented to Pamela Tonke in grateful recognition of 31 years of service to the Northwestern Lehigh School District. Whereas Mrs. Tonke has completed 31 years of distinguished black and gold service as a special education teacher at Northwestern Lehigh School District. And whereas Mrs. Tonke recognized the needs of each of her students and personalized their learning environment to ensure their academic success. And whereas Mrs. Tonke routinely supported the teachers with whom she worked in helping them to meet the needs of the students in their classes. And whereas Mrs. Tonke saw the potential in all students and worked tirelessly to support their growth and development and to help them achieve their goals. And whereas Mrs. Tonke understood the meaning of school community and tiger pride and supported the staff at Northwestern Lehigh School District. And whereas Mrs. Tonke leaves the educational profession knowing that she provided advocacy, compassion, support, professionalism, kindness, and tiger pride. Therefore, be it resolved that the Board of School Directors of the Northwestern Lehigh School District tenders Pam Tonke the sincere thanks and appreciation of the board for her commitment and dedication on behalf of our schools and the Northwestern Lehigh family. And be it resolved further that this resolution be made a permanent part of the record of this public meeting.
Thank you, Mrs. Yadish. Mrs.
You.
Tonke, would you like to say a few words?
Not really. I just want to say thank you. It's been a great district to work for. I've had a great career there, and it was a tough decision to leave. But thank you.
Thank you for your years of service. And thank you for joining us this evening. Thanks, Mr. Johnson.
Thank you.
Did Kim or Harley ask to say anything?
They were not on. They were.
Oh, they're not on.
The link was shared with them. but they were not on.
Okay, I missed that.
That-
Well, thank you, Mrs. Tonke, for all the years of service that you have given to our kids here, and they'll appreciate it. And I'm sure when you run into these kids in your future life, they'll remember you and you'll remember them, and it'll bring joy for the service that you brought to the kids here in the district. And best wishes in your retirement. And as far as Harley and Kim are concerned, that they're kind of the baseline, the bedrock of our values in our transportation department with the work that they've done, and wish them also best wishes in their retirement. I understand Kim is still going to teach bus driving for us, though.
I think she's looking into that.
Looking into it, okay. And thank you for your service to the district. Okay. Anything else?
I don't have anything else now.
Okay, moving on in the agenda, the next item is the board president's report. And as I said earlier, I would like to take the prerogative of the president's report to address the emails that our concerned parents are sending to the school board that are imploring us to resume full-time instruction in our classroom, just as we heard from Mrs. Fatsinger this evening. First, thank you for taking the time to write down your thoughtful opinions and the personal experiences you are living under during this COVID lockdown. You are all passionate about returning your children to school, and you have been extremely courteous with your pleas to open our schools. Now, what I'm about to say is my opinion, and after I speak, I would like to invite any board member to comment at the end of my report. So first, let me say that it is not the practice of any board member, including the board president, to reply to emails online. The reason being that none of us have any authority to talk about board positions or action outside a regular public board meeting. That is the only time a school director has any authority to deliberate, to discuss, and to take action for the school district. Informal one-on-one conversations with community members and friends are okay. However, it must be clear that any views expressed must be considered as individual opinions of the board member and not representative of the full board. Nevertheless, you deserve a response to your emails regarding the reopening of our classrooms. I want to assure all parents and teachers and residents of our community that it is the fervent desire of the board and administration to return to full-time in-person instruction. However, the health and well-being of our students and staff is of the utmost priority. Fortunately, Northwestern Lehigh's current hybrid teaching is the envy of other schools in our county. We are proud of our teachers for stepping up to this difficult challenge, and thank you for the wisdom that our administrators brought to the development of our technology infrastructure and the delivery of our curriculum. But we all know this is not the optimum, not the effective way to teach our children. It doesn't come close to the in-person education they receive in our classrooms. Now, it has become apparent that COVID restrictions we are required to follow may be putting the well-being and health at conflicting odds with each other. In our attempt to stay healthy, our combined psychological well-being has been impacted by the lack of social interaction with classmates and teachers, the excessive screen time for students, and the demand on parents to stay at home from their jobs. They're all taking a toll on our staff and our students and our parents. Many are saying that with this mitigation, the cure is worse than the disease. We've had a few positive cases at Weissenberg in the middle school and the high school. And our experience with COVID positive cases has been tracked and analyzed by administration on a continual basis to evaluate and improve the effectiveness of our mitigation and our sanitation, our protective equipment, and our distancing programs. Our data are also monitored by state and federal health bureaucracies. They're measured against their acceptable limits to determine if we can open our schools. And we're not there yet under the current requirements. So hopefully, as all this data is analyzed and as cases are beginning to show that the actual severity of sickness and death is declining, it is our hope that our state government will be encouraged to consider the negative consequences of the current COVID on the well-being of our students, parents, and teachers, and reevaluate the way the data is interpreted to determine the way this virus impacts our health. So my request to all the frustrated and concerned parents who want to return to normal is, please be assured that our board, our administrators, and our teachers are ready to move to full-time, in-person, as soon as we are allowed to make that happen, following the rules that we have been given from our governor. I want to personally thank you for your patience and cooperation during this stressful time in our nation and our community. You're not alone in this struggle, and we will do all we can to bring our students and teachers back to our schools as soon as we can. In my opinion, and at this time, if there are any board members who would like to offer comments about where we are and to the emails that we have received from parents, please feel free to do so at this time. So I would encourage anyone, all of you out there who are listening in this evening and who are still concerned about where we are and where we're going with this COVID crisis, that you continue to voice your opinions to us, but please recognize that really it's not our practice to be answering emails on a personal basis. And I would invite you to listen in to discussions we have at board meetings. And I know when we started in August, when we started the school year, I personally said or asked if we could reevaluate where we are in October rather than waiting till the end of the marking period to reevaluate our cases. And this has been done continually. It's said almost on a daily basis, looking at our exposure, our experience, and how it's affecting our staff and our students. So with all the analysis that we are doing and all of the restrictions that we are required to live within at this time, it really doesn't look like we're in a position to open up shortly under the restrictions and the requirements that we have from our state. We'll continue to look at the numbers and the cases in our experience. We'll continue to evaluate the mitigation procedures that we have in effect here. But we ask that you please work with us and understand that we'd like to open the school as much as you, maybe not as much as you, but pretty close to as much as you, to bring our kids back here for the education that they deserve. I want you just to know that we're on board with your feelings to get back to normal. And we all have to live within the requirements that our government has been putting on us for this COVID. So before we leave and go to the superintendent's report, I'd like to offer up the opportunity for anybody else on the board to comment on this.
Just have a quick question, Jen. Just out of curiosity, are there these mandates, are there any schools or districts that are going against them and just bypassing them? And if so, what are the consequences? Is that something we ask Jessica? Is that something you understand?
Well, I certainly don't know statewide. I can tell you locally, there are 2 districts that are back full-time, at least in Lehigh County. But if you recall correctly, one of the caveats that PD put out was a hybrid is any model in which you can make 6 feet social distancing. And so the 2 colleagues I'm referencing are Catasauqua School District and Saucon Valley School District, both of similar size, and I suspect that all of are the 2 districts Mrs. Staffing is referencing. And so both of them, I've spoken to both of them numerous times, certainly Catasauqua more frequently because their superintendent is in our IU. The percentage of students that Catasauqua has online is 50-50 or 60-40. And so they have the number of students in a classroom that allow the 6 feet social distancing. And in my report, I have our percentages, but they vary by building anywhere from 76 to 82% want to come back to school. And so if you use those numbers as actual survey numbers, 76 to 82% of our students in the classrooms and the size of our rooms doesn't allow the 6 feet social distancing in many spaces. There are some that it does. Saucon Valley, I have spoken to most recently as well. I don't know their superintendent as well, but certainly did speak to them. They also have a number of students online that have allowed them to also, in all of their classroom spaces, afford 6 feet social distancing. Some of the schools that are north of us in terms of Schuylkill County have also done the same thing, but my understanding is that they also all have 6 feet of social distancing in their classrooms based on the split of their choice, meaning online or in person. You can do a hybrid many ways. You can do it the way we're doing it, or you can do it by parental choice. And so those districts that I mentioned locally are essentially doing it by parent choice and are still able to make a hybrid work. It's just the students in person and the students at home. I'm sure there are districts statewide that are violating it. I would have to do some research to figure out who that would be. Jessica can certainly talk about the implications to that. I believe she talked to you about the implications, and I think she's online. In the past, in terms of what happens in terms of liability and litigiousness, we've also talked before, there's liability and litigiousness on all sides of this. And Jessica, you can certainly add to that if you like, but I'd have to do some research to find out if there are other districts in the state that are violating it. I'm sure there are some.
It's not something that they're publicizing if they are.
Right.
Would you repeat that?
It's not something they're publicizing if they are violating. It would do a little bit of digging. But there are certainly districts, there's a survey across the state that the state is calculating. They're asking you to report, are you back traditional? Are you back scaffolded? And scaffolded essentially means different models for different grades. And so like East Penn School District, they have a different model for their elementary than they do for their secondary. So they call that scaffolded. Hybrid or blended or back full-time. And they ask the IUs each week to collect how the districts are operating. They don't collect things like, are they able to think 6 feet social distancing mark? So it would be a little bit of work to figure that out.
I'm going to throw a real hypothetical at you here.
Mm-hmm.
Suppose this continues.
Mm-hmm.
We've discussed the K through 3, the whole reconfiguration, knowing that we have the amount of empty classrooms that we do at Weisenberg.
Mm-hmm.
So you know where I'm going with it.
I have the theory, I know where you're going to.
Is it something that we've considered to explore maybe down the road?
I would say yes, in a general sense. Everything's on the table. Everything's on the table from, we talked about tents and moving kids. Our goal being to try to get the 6 feet social distancing. There's 16 or 17 open classrooms. That is certainly a possibility. You can't duplicate teachers or instructional staff in the same way you can duplicate space. And so it becomes an issue of looking at your numbers. And so when we were collecting, during the summer, survey data after survey data after survey data, the attempt was, I know people have said, 90% of your folks want to return. And part of that was to get that data. But part of that was to find, do we have that sweet spot in any grade or any level just like Haddock was doing, to be able to say, okay, we have enough students online that the capacity or the enrollment in the building allows that. I would tell you that Jill in Weisenberg Elementary has less students selecting online, but as you know from your facility reports, also has bigger classrooms and more classrooms available. Northwestern Elementary and the middle school are the buildings that have the least students selecting online, and are also the two buildings that are physically classroom constraint wise the smallest. I would tell you everything from, and I'll certainly report on this, but everything from county data to zip code data to weighting zip code data to monitoring incidents, instructional models is all yes on the table. I mean, Bill's correct. Part of our effort is we look at all the data to make the best decision. There's CDC reports out there. There's Pennsylvania Department of Health reports. There's information from PDE. There's information from WHO. Information even as of today from the CDC, which all have a variety of different measures, guidance. There are some patterns and certainly things that are consistent among them, and trying to figure out the best path for which grade levels and what would the return be, and to do it in the safest way possible. But all of those things are on the table. Elementary reconfiguration, although we went through this once already, but yes, there's open space classrooms at Weisenberg that we could utilize as part of the solution.
Thank you.
This summer when you were making the 3 scenarios, depending on how the government would allow us to come back to school. One was full-time, in-person, normal. Next was hybrid, which we're in now, and the other most restricted was everybody online. At that time, I believe the criteria for separation in the classroom was 3 feet. Am I right about that? And then close to when we're ready to begin, it was changed to 6 feet, which is really what drove us into this hybrid plan that we're in, I believe. I don't know what caused the officials to go from 3 feet to 6 feet. And I was always under the impression that we either would have separation or masking. I didn't know it was a requirement to have both separation and masking at the same time. I guess that's just doubling up, more is better or whatever. I don't know how we got to that point, but my question is if the authorities go back to thinking 3 feet is okay, either with or without masks, would that allow us a little bit more leeway in bringing kids back full-time into the buildings?
Well, the answer is first, it didn't change. That's one of those pieces of advice that differs by organization. And so the World Health Organization and the American Academy of Pediatrics have supported and continue to support 3 to 6 feet. 1 meter, they say, which is a little over 3 feet. What happened was the CDC has always said 6 feet. 6 feet to the maximum extent feasible. And when PDE and the Department of Health came out with their guidance, they obviously adopted what the CDC said. So you have the alignment of the Center for Disease Control, the CDC, the Pennsylvania Department of Education, which is obviously our education body that commissions this board and commissions us as commissioned officers, and the Department of Health in Pennsylvania that have aligned on the 6 feet. And so that is one of those pieces of advice that I would say differs slightly by the organization. And so when we were originally looking at 3 to 6 feet, we had a lot of support from our health advisors at Lehigh Valley Health Network to say, who is supporting that? The American Academy of Pediatrics, if you recall, right before school, a month before school maybe, put out information about return to school and the distance that they supported in terms of the droplet distribution mitigation. That's essentially what it is. It's how far do you anticipate the droplets are going to go before they drop out of the air, and what is that distance? And I think it's evolved and varied based on organization and based on a number of different studies. You know, we don't claim to be public health folks, but that feels a difference really in who supports which distance. And so when the Pennsylvania Department of Health and the Pennsylvania Department of Education supported the Center for Disease Control at 6 feet, it certainly is something that pushed multiple districts, in addition to the metric that they came up with 3 weeks before school on like August 10th or 12th that said they were basing it on your county and your level of spread in your county, which is what, you know, as most of you know, led to the moderate spread in Lehigh County. We do watch surrounding counties as well. Even Mrs. Lister and I talked about this a little before the meeting about what's happening in Schuylkill County, Northampton County, Berks County, and what's happening in each of our townships. And so I told most of you at most board meetings, we have also tracked zip code data. We're currently working on an analysis to weight some of our zip codes, recognizing that not all of our zip code data is solely ours. And so some of that information is what we're trying to look at in one of those metrics to see, is there a path forward? If not right now, sometime in the future. You know, Dr. Sosnovic and I, in my report, most recently talked to Dr. Pelosi, who is one of our experts at LVHN, and even talked about the test-based strategy that has come out most recently of testing students or testing at college levels in some sort of randomized fashion. And is that a pathway that allows some less distance than the 6 feet being the acceptable measure? And really, that's not a practicality right now. It's not financially practical, nor is it readily available or able to be turned around that fast. And so that might become a solution in the future. But randomly testing people in your organization to the tune of 1,000 people every few days or once a week, you know, there's a financial impact to that too. In addition to right now, it's just not readily available. We're trying to look at, you know, even as of yesterday, ultimate paths that allow, you know, Dr. Pelosi's words were, the layer of mitigation strategies that you layer on is really what keeps you safe. It's not one thing. It's, you know, you said the distancing and the mask. It's really this layering of things that if something would fail or something wouldn't work exactly as designed, you know, we're working with children and you really layer it on. And so there's multiple things that we have, from the cleaning to the mask wearing, which our kids, I mean, I'll say that tonight, our kids are very, very good with. I think that was probably one of the most anxious things our families are anxious about. The wearing the mask, they've really been very, very good. But it's the layering of all those strategies that I think ultimately is what's going to keep all of us safe. I don't know if that answers your question, because both of those metrics continue to exist. It's when the Pennsylvania Department of Health and Department of Education align with the metric the CDC used. If you'd like to add to that.
Yeah, and that was when they released the models for traditional, blended, and online. So on August 10th, when they released that guidance that defined what a hybrid was, they defined it as any model in person that allowed students to be 6 feet apart and remove the language of the maximum extent feasible from that point in time. Now, the maximum extent feasible is still listed in some of their other guidance, but when they made the definition of the hybrid itself and what that meant, they removed that as the flexibility we were using to go with a 3 to 6 foot model, which forced us into a hybrid at that point in time. And the mask, you are accurate, Mr. Delacour. Initially, it was social distancing, the distance, and then, you know, without the mask, they added the mask as a requirement with social distancing as everything evolved from March to up into the start of school to our present day.
I mean, the other piece of data that we look at regularly is the districts surrounding us, and I said the counties surrounding us. You know, the districts in Lehigh County have done a variety of different things. Some of them are scaffolded, like East Penn is. Southern Lehigh is also scaffolded, different modality, high school remote. I think they actually just came back yesterday or the day before into some hybrid mode. Allentown completely remote, and some of the other districts are hybrid like us. And so us and Northern Lehigh, Parkland, and I said Whitehall, I think I got all of them, are all hybrid like us. And we do consult regularly with districts in Lehigh and Carbon, as well as Northampton County, to find out best practices and learn. I've gotten several phone calls trying to learn from some of our experiences. And so we're trying to do that to find the path forward. And we do have some classrooms that will do 60. It's just not in a consistent manner. And we're looking at that every day to try to analyze. At the end of the marking period, however, and there's some shifts, that could also shift some things in terms of people shifting one way or another, either to completely online or to back in person, and you have to reevaluate your numbers. You know, we told people that we really didn't want them to switch models just because of the disruption that causes. And so coming up on the second marking period, in addition to whatever we are considering for instructional models, we expect there will be some shift of students switching instructional models for a variety of different reasons.
Question for Attorney Moyer with us tonight. One of the recurring questions on most of the emails that we get from parents is this question about the guidelines. Are they guidelines? Are they requirements? Are they mandated? Are they suggestions? And I was wondering if you could just speak to that a minute to edify us all on that guideline question.
Sure, Mr. Delker, no problem. So it is guidance. PDE and the Department of Health issued guidance, but that's all that we have. And we don't know what the implications would be if we would not follow their guidance. So our advice has been to follow their guidance. And as Mr. Fatzinger asked, you know, what are the implications if you don't? So what could happen? So we don't know what the state agencies would do in the event that you don't follow the guidance. I mean, maybe we'll find out if these other districts aren't doing it. But what you do is open yourself up to liability. There's issues under federal law as well as state law. There's state created danger. If you are looking at state issued guidance and telling you what to do and you are not following it, you are opening up yourself to liability. This could fall under one of the exceptions for the Torts Claim Act and open yourself up to liability there. You wouldn't be insulated from it. So I think to the extent that you can, our recommendation is to continue the guidance. You ultimately have the decision if you want to ignore the guidance and proceed to go in person, but you just have to understand that you're opening up to yourself to liability if you do not.
Jessica, can you, so thank you for that. Can you also provide us your summary on the law regarding providing adequate educational services? We heard from a parent tonight that we're not providing the level of education that her child provides. Can you just kind of give us a summary or assessment of that?
Mr. Leiser, I think the interpretation is what is the appropriate education? I'm sure the administrators sitting around the table here tonight are going to say that the children are being provided with the best education feasible for the environment that we are in today. So obviously I can tell you though that we have seen an uptick in special ed cases as a result of COVID-19 and children not being able to be in school. And those cases are working their way through the law of the legal system right now. I have not seen to date any cases whereby general education parents are alleging suit against school districts, alleging inappropriate education as a result of the school districts following the guidance of the various state agencies.
Thank you, appreciate it.
No problem.
Anyone else have any comments or opinions or about this issue as we move forward? I think that, again, I'll restate what I said before, that the staff is continually looking at our experience, what we're doing right, what we're doing wrong, and anticipating the day that we can open up our doors to all the kids who want to come back to school full time. And Unfortunately, at this point, tonight, or in this maybe this month, we're not in a position to determine when that's going to happen. I think when this election is over in a couple of weeks, things might change politically. To hear all this talk about following science, I think we're probably, in some cases, following political science more than we're following medical science, but we'll see how that changes in a couple of weeks as far as the environment that we're living within to take all these state guidelines that we have to live under. I empathize with all the parents out there. I think that, I don't have any kids in this school district. I have a few kids at college, and they're undergoing some very strenuous conditions as well in a college environment, away from home. And the effect that these restrictions are having on all of our young people, I think, is going to be discussed long into the future, and we may feel the effects of it long into the future until we get back to normal and try to recover from this, the last year and a half, 2 years that we've been living under this COVID crisis. Thank you for, again, for sending us your emails and for coming to the board meetings and offering your concerns and your opinions. And there's nobody else who would like to make a statement this evening from the board or the administration. We'll move on to Superintendent's report.
Thank you, Mr. Delkers. Part of my report does have to do with this and giving you an update. But before that, I would just like to say, some of you know, Janine, I sent you a message. Janine has accepted a job elsewhere, and so I wish her the very best of luck and like to introduce you, at least in the interim, for those of you who haven't met her, to Christy Spanitz, who will be filling in the interim to all of our board duties. And Janine has tried to show her everything about the board that she needs to know and told her where everything is. And so I welcome Christy and thank her for helping us out at the board level and being your go-to, as well as some of my go-to. And so she is ordinarily with Leslie, and so I appreciate Leslie sharing her with all of us. So that's what she's Janine, and welcome for the interim, Christy. Tonight, I talked a little bit about some of this, but certainly we'll go through some of it. Mr. Delker mentioned our staff continue to do an amazing job supporting our students online and in person. We do continue to monitor the data, and I gave you a report about 2 weeks ago in October. We do have 12 cases, and Mr. Delker mentioned the buildings that they are in, or have been in. I also give you updates, or have historically given you updates on how many cases or students or staff we have tracked through the process. That doesn't mean they've ended up positive. That means they either went for testing or were symptomatic, etc. As certainly a measure of how often we are tracking students and staff in the district. And there, to date, since August, we have had 103 people that we have tracked certainly through the process and led to testing, whether they be negative or positive, 12 of which obviously are positive. We continue to regularly consult with LVHN. I mentioned that earlier tonight in Mr. Delker's report that we spoke to them as recently as yesterday. They are on a weekly meeting, certainly with county officials and trying to provide advice, as well as St. Luke's officials, trying to really just help school districts and the public from the public health organization and provide advice to schools, videos to schools, different advice of things that they're seeing, both in their organizations as organizations that have certainly been on the front lines, but also things that they've seen in their practices that have come from schools or are occurring in schools and making recommendations for changes. The gentleman I mentioned earlier, Dr. Pelosi, is on our plan, and he has consulted also with us personally, certainly, as we've had questions or we've had cases, as he certainly has been a valuable resource. He always informs us about the newest changes. We were, as I said, on the phone with him yesterday about some of the test-based strategy and some of the things that he has seen or we've seen come out in research reports in terms of masks, in terms of gaiters, in terms of some changes. Mr. Delker mentioned PPE gear changes that we can make to better protect ourselves throughout the process. And so we continue to do that and regularly consult with Lehigh Valley Health Network to make those changes. We continue to reinforce, as I said earlier, the layers of precaution. He mentioned, and we can completely concur with this and try to reinforce this with staff. It's really risk mitigation and containment. All of the things that we're doing, as uncomfortable as they are, from masks to social distancing, to the hybrid approach, to all of the things that we've mentioned and are in our plan, are really to keep people safe. And so it's to mitigate the risk that people getting the virus. And so some of them are not comfortable. We're all not, I'm sure, comfortable sitting here with masks. Our kids in the classrooms, I'm sure, feel the same, but it really is to mitigate the risk and try to contain it the best we can. We, as I said, are working on an analysis of data, regularly look at Lehigh County data as well as surrounding data in Carbon County, Northampton County, and Berks County, as well as our neighbors to the north in Schuylkill County. We also have collected the zip code data. That is both in cases as well as the positivity rate, as well as hospitalizations and what the hospitals are experiencing to get to some of the information about the severity of the illness. In the most recent report, there have been an uptick in both cases and hospitalizations that we're certainly watching, and that's one of the things we log daily. We do monitor the incidents per 100,000 in 7 days. That was one of the 2 metrics that PDE had given us at the beginning of the year to really monitor how many per 100,000 residents in the last 7 days have there been new cases. As I said, the percent positive PCR rating, as well as the fluctuations in our instructional model. And so our instructional model, we have done, I think, a superb job, and I do think that it hands down, I'm a little biased, but it beats every other school district in terms of what they're able to do in the classroom. And keeping the students as on pace as possible. We do have a large percentage of students that are selecting an in-person instructional model, and that is one of the things that makes us slightly different than what some other school districts are able to do, and it does lead to some distancing challenges and barriers that we might need to overcome as we move forward. So the high school has 76% in-person instruction, middle school 80%, Northwestern Elementary 78%, and Weisenberg 82%. So I mentioned earlier that the middle school and Weisenberg are 2 buildings that have the most online. Northwestern Elementary close behind them at 78% in person. Our assumptions in all of our analysis is that the majority of people that have selected an in-person model now, even at 2 days per week, would be the same folks that would want to choose an in-person model even 4 days a week. I will tell you that any potential move we would make in the future, and I've said this before, would likely have to be 4 days per week, because we continue to offer an online model for students. And so we have almost 400 students across the district that are online. And that's the day that the teachers currently right now are touching base with those students that they don't see ordinarily other days. So any move would potentially probably be 4 days per week when we get to that place. It is very different than the other schools. I did mention Catasauqua as well as Saucon Valley as schools that are similar size to us, but they do have a higher percentage of students online and are able to afford the distancing in their classrooms. And that's certainly something we're looking at as well, even down to the classroom level. And I can tell you our principals have done the number crunching to try to look at the balances in the classrooms and look at the actual space in the classrooms. And what I can tell you is certainly we want all of our students back. I know the board does as well. Our teachers do and our administrators do. We also want to do so safely. So we will continue to monitor the data. As Mrs. Fatzinger said, our intention is not to let people know things the weekend before or directly before, but as soon as we have the information, we will certainly let folks know, and hopefully in enough preparation. I think the preparation to go this way in terms of bringing students back is a little easier than having to make accommodations for students that, staying at home. So something we'll continue to monitor. I continue to send you reports and data, and we will continue to monitor that to make the best recommendations we can to all of you.
Thank you, Mrs. Holman. Are there any questions or comments about the superintendent's report before we move on to personnel? Seeing none, Mrs. Matika, will you please lead us through the personnel action this evening?
I will, Mr. Jelliker, thank you. There are 41 items for your approval this evening. The items highlighted in yellow have been added since the agenda was posted on Friday. There are 4 noteworthy retirements I'd like to call your attention to, and I'll start with Harley William Newman, because we talked to him we recognized him this morning. He had trouble getting on the Zoom, so that's why they were not there as expected. We did recognize his retirement tonight for 16 years of service. I'd also like to call your attention to the retirement of Deb Artwine, who is a family and consumer science teacher at the middle school after 25 years of service, and Marie Gresley, who is an instructional assistant at the middle school after 16 years of service, and the retirement of Heidi Taylor, who's a business teacher at our high school after 37 years of service. So I would like us to recognize 94 years of service in the Northwestern High School District. Which is kind of all the other items are our usual items for your approval.
Amazing. How many years was that total for
94.
retirees? 94.
94.
94 years. Thank you, Mrs. Matika.
Very well.
Okay, you heard and you've seen the personnel items on the agenda, and I would entertain a motion to approve those items.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Fatsinger. Second by Mr. Rex. Any comments or questions?
Actually, I do have a comment. I almost want to ask the question, are we all right?
Staffing wise?
Yeah. I noticed the disproportionate numbers between the amount of substitutes that we're losing versus the amount we're hiring.
Actually, you can see the number of resignations is almost double of the number of hires. We are having much difficulty finding substitute teachers. This is not unusual compared to other school districts. We're seeing a lot of people who have been retirees who wanted to have worked here, deciding they don't want to work because of COVID. They don't need to work. They're per diem employees. They'll do something else or stay home where it's safe. We're also seeing a number of our substitutes have their own children at home. So they're staying at home with their children or their grandchildren or their nieces or their nephews because they are certified teachers and their family needs. We're also seeing people who decide that I'm not working in school right now. I'll go work somewhere else. We're also seeing certified teachers who are doing pods in their neighborhood. So we are challenged by the lack of substitute teachers right now. And it's not for the lack of trying. Many of the substitutes have also gotten full-time or contracted positions in other school districts because other school districts are suffering staff shortages also. So they may have 4 people who are out on maternity, but another 12 who are out on COVID leave. And they may have worked for us as a day-to-day sub, but if they can land a contract as a short-term sub or a long-term sub at Northern or Parkland, that's what's happening. It is very concerning, and it has impacted our day-to-day operations. Our staff are doubling up and covering classes. Our staff are here, but we also have always operated with substitute teachers.
Thank you.
Thank you for asking.
Any other comments or questions? Thank you, Mrs. Matiko. Hearing none, Mrs. Partino, would you please call the roll?
John Cassiano.
Aye.
Willard Delaker.
Aye.
Joseph Fatzinger.
Aye.
Todd Hernandez.
Yes.
Todd Leiser.
Aye.
Rosemary Lister.
Aye.
Alan Rex.
Aye.
Rachel Scheffler.
Aye.
James Warfel.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. Motion carried. Thank you, Mrs. Matiko. Moving on to curriculum and building issues, we have 2 items on the agenda that were vetted at our workshop, and I would like to take them both as a consent agenda. Is there anything further to add about the Future Ready comprehensive plan, Dr. Sisnovic,
No, sir.
since the presentation that you made at the workshop? And the dental contract is just a routine continuation of the contract we have with Dr. Snyder. Okay, I would entertain a motion then to approve the Future Ready comprehensive plan to move on to, I believe it is to display publicly before we send it to the state, and the dental contract.
Motion to approve the curriculum issues.
Motion by Dr. Warfel,
Second.
second by Mrs. Scheffler. Any comments or questions? Hearing none, will you please call the roll?
John Cassiano.
Aye.
Willard Delaker,
Aye.
Joseph Batzinger,
Aye.
Todd Hernandez. Was that an aye?
Say yes.
If you read lips,
Yes, yes, that's yes. Tom Lizer,
Yes.
Rosemary Lister,
Aye.
Alan Rex,
Aye.
Rachel Scheffler,
Aye.
James Warfel.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carried. Under policy, we have first reading for two policies. Dr. Sisnovic, I turn to you, please.
Thank you, Mr. Delaker. No changes at this time.
Okay, this will be on the agenda for 30 days, and we'll approve these or take action on these at the November board meeting. Correct? Okay. Okay, moving on to district finances. The Whitehall Copley agreement for special ed. Sir.
There is a new addition. I'm not sure if it's on your printed copy.
Okay, excuse me. Yes, there is a item 6.01, which is a new agenda item. Is it KG?
Khajiit,
Khajiit?
and I can speak to it, sir.
Would you like to speak to that, Dr. Sisnovic?
Yes, the board has approved in the past contract for the district to purchase hotspots to provide our families that are online, that are in areas throughout the district that do not have the internet service available to them to learn online. So in order for us to remove that as a barrier to their learning, we've purchased a number of hotspots. Our previous contract was for 25, and we've handed out all but 3 of them at this point. And so we're running to a down in terms of quantities available for our families, and we need to go out and purchase some additional ones. And that is what you see before you tonight. This contract was reviewed by our solicitor, and it is for your consideration for tonight, please.
So this is for 20 more hotspots for Wi-Fi connections to supplement the 25 we already have in existence.
Yes, sir.
Okay, how are those determined?
Families communicate to us as well as teachers. There's a number of different avenues that we discover folks having challenges, and at that point in time, we assign a technology person to help assess what is going on, determine that is the exact need and the right solution for them.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions about the contract with Khajiit for 20 more hotspots for a total of $7,793?
Yeah, I see this is on Verizon. Now, the other one was on T-Mobile.
That's correct.
So do we have coverage now? Because I know there's some T-Mobile spots that don't work. There's Verizon spots that don't work. Depends where you live. If you're on the mountain, you're on the bottom of the mountain.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So depending on what service is on what cell tower will dictate, your overall coverage. And so working with the vendor, we felt it prudent for us to get Verizon, another carrier, to help augment any of those maybe dark spots with our current provider, which is T-Mobile. So we're leveraging or mitigating our inability to provide that by getting another provider.
Right. So I'm just saying, do we need to get an AT&T also? Do we need 3 to get coverage for those dead spots?
Not at this time. They believe that Verizon and AT&T have a very comparable coverage in terms of signal within this area. So the recommendation from the provider is to move forward with Verizon. And if we would have chosen AT&T, again, it would have had a similar impact now. So we don't believe that we need all 3, but time will tell as well.
So what's the quantity of 120?
It's that is how many months, how they calculate it in terms of months.
We're paying for that up front.
Yeah, that's how the contract works.
Even if we don't use it.
That's accurate.
Any other comments or questions about the hotspots? Good questions. It's necessary because of our online, and I guess they know where they can make some money. If we go back full-time, in-house full-time, we still have to pay for the end of the till the end of the contract.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah.
They could also be used for, if we ever implement our flexible instruction days as well. So, you know, we have another avenue for their use if we need them.
Or digital academy.
Yeah, or digital academy.
Okay. Okay,
You also needed, Jennifer, you said anything to go back, it would be 4 days. Will students have asynchronous learning on the 5th day that they would need for?
Yes, at least initially when we have, as long as we continue to offer online, they could do some of that asynchronous. So one of the benefits of a Chromebook for 1 day is that students can work on some of their assignments as long as the teacher makes it available and it syncs up. That's not a good model to continue for a 4 or 5 day week model. But, and in our flexible instructional day application, if you recall, for those students that might not have connectivity, because you have to make arrangements in case the student wouldn't have power, because sometimes in storms you don't have power. There's also provision for students to make up work when they come back if they don't have internet, but there are some locations that we have students that need them, whether they're digital academy, whether we end up students in quarantine, which I think is for the foreseeable future going to happen cyclically at least. But yes, there is an asynchronous Wednesday in our plans for the foreseeable future, as long as online remains an option.
I think we did receive some money for these kinds of things from federal government, or was it under the CARES Act or one of those acts that gave us some money for COVID equipment? Would this be qualified for that?
This would be considered an eligible expense, however, it's not in the grant because we've already submitted those grant applications.
Okay, all right, okay. Any other questions before we move on? I still would like to take the entire district finances as one motion, but before we move on, Mr. Fatsinger.
I know you've answered this. I'm going to ask it one more time, just in case. We are making sure that parents have the connectivity.
We personally, in many cases, drove in out to houses to check connectivity and run speed tests to do so. And
Okay.
Dr. Suzume can address that more than I can.
Here's the caveat. Here's why I'm asking the question, and I actually hate to ask this question. What stops a parent from canceling their Wi-Fi and using this as their Wi-Fi instead?
Essentially nothing. They could do that. It's the school's responsibility, whether it's a textbook, whether it's a computer, or whether it's a connective device to get there. It's no different than the access a school bus provides to get them here.
I get it.
Dr. Suzume, can you add to that, really?
Yeah, Mr. Fatsinger, it's an honor system. And we hope that, and we have found that our community has lived by, the honor in which, we all, come to expect. And so we do go through a process that vets out families. We ask them about their cellular provider, their current ISP. We go through a battery of questions prior to issuing out these devices.
And both the local providers for some time offered free service that for most cases has just expired. So initially Blue Ridge and Service Electric, Janine actually was one that made a lot of the connections when people would call to try to put them through if they are a family who couldn't otherwise afford it and or didn't previously have service, that they were offering that. It was just a time limited service that has run out, and those organizations haven't extended that. So there was initially some avenues that people were able to get 6 months of free service. It's just at this point that it's expired.
Thank you. Any other questions? .02, the Whitehall copy agreement for special ed services was vetted at the workshop, and also the reports. Are there anything else under the reports you'd like to discuss?
Not unless there's additional questions.
Anything about the bills we should know?
The bills are routine unless anybody has a specific question.
Okay.
Yeah, I saw you said the electric was really high. It was 20,000 over. Is that a month billing issue, or why would that be? Because electric would be pretty static.
I'd have to pull the individual bills to see.
It was on one of your highlighted items, that's.
Yeah, it could just be a matter of the timing of the bills
Okay.
and how they got paid and missed the cutoff for payment last month. Could be an issue with that, but I can get you that answer.
Yeah, I'm just curious, because like I said, it should be pretty static.
Okay. So we would, I would entertain a motion for 601 through 604.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Mr. Rex,
Second.
second by Dr. Warfel. Any further comments or questions on those 4 items? Hearing none, please call the roll.
John Cassiano,
Aye.
Willard Delaker,
Aye.
Joseph Fatzinger,
Aye.
Todd Hernandez,
Aye.
Todd Leiser,
Yes.
Rosemary Lister,
Aye.
Alan Rex,
Aye.
Rachel Scheffler,
I abstain.
James Warfel.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carried. And moving on to other reports. Is there anything under the enrollment report, Mrs. Holman, that you'd like to point out?
There was some change. Let me pull it quickly. There was a few additional students that are identified as moving to cyber from our last month that I just want to point out to your attention. And so we get some of the non-public numbers in October. And so I mentioned to you last month in September that the non-public numbers was just a rollover from last year. And so 145 is the non-public number. So there was an increase from last year to this year in some of our non-public, which would traditionally be non-public schools in our area. You'll also see, I said the last meeting, I think it was last month, we didn't lose any additional. There's a few students that went to cyber or charter from September to October, 115 to 130 students. And so just wanted to draw those to your attention because I did mention cyber and charter last month and told you that non-public numbers are typically reported in October, where each of those schools reports to us how many students are in their non-public school. Our numbers are included on the bottom, also include all of our online students. And so by school, Northwestern Elementary, the numbers there are collectively both. Northwestern Elementary has 311 students in person and 82 online. Weisenberg has 310 students in person and 62 online. Middle school, 407 students in person and 87 online. High school, 554 students in person and 149 online. And we have 39 students in the Digital Academy. And so that is an ancillary report we're keeping. We didn't want to add it all to the enrollment reports, but we do keep it monthly to kind of see the shift across each of our buildings. I'll certainly take any questions if you have them.
Did you talk about the jump in the charter general ed?
I actually talked about charter both. Because initially last month I reported that we didn't lose a significant number of students to cyber or charter, but there is an uptick, and I just did the total. I said 115 to 130 was
like a 10% increase.
Drawing your attention to.
Okay.
And some of that's timing of when the charter school puts them on the rolls. So those students may not have left in the month of October, but they didn't catch up on billing until now. So that may be some of the difference as well.
Do charter schools, either bricks and mortar or cyber, take on new students between marking periods? They take them anytime, regardless of where they are in the marking period?
Not all of them though. Some of them will appear, but when we've had students enroll, there has been truancy issues because they will tell you you can't enroll till a certain enrollment period. It's not always marking periods. It's usually some arbitrary time period, but it's not all of them. Some of them will take them any time.
And we do see movement throughout the year.
Yes.
In and out and moving from one school to another, or in our district, and then they move out and they leave our roles. We do see some movement month to month.
Would the tuition be prorated according to the number of days that they attend?
Yeah, and Christy Steigerwald in my office tracks that. And so every month we reconcile the bill based off of the known kids. So if there's someone that shows up on that bill that we don't recognize from the prior month, she'll do research to make sure they're our student and they live in our district before she will then pay that bill. So month to month, there's always a reconciliation of what the charter school is billing us versus what we pay them. And at the end of the year, we do a final reconciliation because history has shown that if we just blindly pay the bill, it's always in a position where then we're trying to get money back, the student left or they didn't really enroll for that many days. So we keep a close eye on that.
Some of you heard from Dr. Hyman the earlier in the report, just to note, Circle of Seasons did, I believe, make the decision through at least January to remain completely remote. I think I told you that, but I don't know if Dr. Hyman is still on, but that is a decision I believe the Circle of Seasons board made. They are entirely remote through January.
Okay, any other questions about the enrollment report before we move on? Then let's hear the foundation report. Mrs. Stitzel, do you have anything this evening?
Yes, I do. Thank you. The foundation has its annual clay shoot this coming Sunday. From what I understand, there is a record number of participants this year, so I'm happy to report that. And also that the foundation recently applied for and was granted a Lions Fulwiler grant. They were awarded $5,000, and they're going to be using that to help us purchase some software that will enhance some of the online collaboration with students. Currently, we're operating with Kami software that is on a free, it actually expires at the end of the month. So we were very fortunate in reaching out to the foundation, and they are going to help us purchase that for the remainder of the school year.
Excellent, thank you. Are you shooting on Saturday?
Me, no.
Okay. All right, well, have fun. Anyway, thank you, Mrs. Stitzel. Committee reports from the IU, Dr. Warfel.
Yes, sir. We met on Monday night virtually. Pretty routine meeting. Obviously, they are experiencing the same challenges that the school district is. Quadrupled in some cases, given the challenges of some of the students they work with. Trying to make this work is beyond my comprehension. We did have one presentation Monday evening I'd like to share with you briefly, because you may not be aware of it, but along the many programs that the intermediate operates is the education program at the Youth Forestry Camp up in Carbon County. Youth Forestry Camp is a state licensed juvenile detention center serving students, males between the ages of 13 and 21. The IU provides services for them in terms of credit acquisition, credit recovery, GED preparation, and they also have a vocational technical track, along with another one, more of a technology type of track for gentlemen there who may have already acquired their high school diploma. So I think it's an interesting program, and I'd like to, when I have the chance, just to keep you all a little bit appraised of what goes on in those kind of situations. I actually, very early in my teaching career, taught in a juvenile detention center one summer, St. Gage, down in Montgomery County, and it was one of the best teaching experiences I ever had, because those Christian brothers had those guys under control. I mean, they didn't care what you crossed on. There was no nonsense whatsoever. Delightful experience that summer. I also, for the record, want to say that I issued a tongue-in-cheek protest with the Heighton representative on the IU board the other evening for pirating away Mrs. Porcinio in the middle of the pandemic. I said to him that our significant losses, they're tremendous gains, so I wish you well.
Thank you. Now you have that to look forward to when you're out.
Oh, he was very proud of himself. Very thrilled.
Thank you, Dr. Warfel. LCTI, Mr. Ricks.
Yes, so we had our meeting virtually as well. The student speaker was Julia Romali, Northwestern DECA report she gave. Very well spoken, very well presented. The meeting, like you said, has the same challenges as everybody else. I had an OAC meeting this morning or this afternoon for one of the classes in The trouble is students not showing up on for their Zoom. So how do we get that to happen, and how do we get them to make sure they're doing their work? It's difficult, to say the least. There's a new Skill USA director. Andy Hammer is going to be taking over. He took over starting last week. Katie left for another position, so it'll be a new Skills USA director, so that we'll work with that person there down at LCTI. So other than that, like I said, same challenges, same problems, even more difficult when you're doing a hands-on. How do you bake a cake if you're not there to bake a cake? So.
Thank you, Mr. Rex. Yeah, challenges all over, huh? I have nothing to report from L-Tri-C. I was intending to ask the board if they'd like me to invite Dr. Kistler, Barbara Kistler, who is our representative, to come and maybe in November and fill us in on what's going on at L-Tri-C. Would that be the wish of the board to hear Barbara Kistler? Okay.
Mr. Delker, they did send a report that they send annually to Dr. Kistler and you. It is attached to your board agenda from L-Tri-C, has some enrollment statistics, etc. Just so that you know it's there.
I think it'd be good just to have her come in person. And
do you wish me to invite her?
Okay, we'll contact her and maybe in November. Okay.
Sure.
And Rec Commission, Mr. Hernandez, anything from the Rec Commission?
Not a lot to report at this time. Low usage at the fields, and they're just prepping them for the winter months right now. So that's about it at the moment.
Thank you, Todd. There is no old business on the agenda. Is there any old business from any board member to bring up at this time? Seeing none, we'll move into new business, and I believe we can take all four of these items in a consent agenda. So Mrs. Holman, would you please review the first two donations that we have to approve as a board, and then we will move into the board calendar, which we did discuss, and the recommendation for the Joint Operating Committee at LCTI representatives.
Certainly, these actually, Mrs. Frisbee probably knows a little bit more about. Both of these are organizations that she has worked with in order to get donations, both from Equitable, which is one of our 403B plan providers, and Highmark Blue Shield donated back to school work kits, as well as hand sanitizers and sanitizing wipes from both of those organizations that are being distributed to either our students or our employees, and depending on the case. And so we do need to take action on the submission of a donation. Mrs. Frisbee, do you have anything to add to that? The board calendar is traditional as it was. If you have any ads, certainly, I think everyone wanted to keep the meeting structure relatively the same going into 2021. The one item I did pull off is the committees. So we do need to know any movement on committees so we can take action on that as late as November. And lastly, this appointment is for Alan Rex and Joseph Essinger as the alternate to join the L-Tri-C JOC committee at LCTI. I said L-Tri-C, LCTI.
Okay, you heard the items, and I would entertain a motion to approve 9.01 through and including 9.04.
Motion to approve new business.
Motion by Dr. Warfel,
Second,
second by, is that Mr. Lizer?
Cassiano.
Mr. Cassiano, second, Mr. Cassiano. Please call the roll.
John Cassiano,
Aye.
Willard Delager,
Aye.
Joseph Betzinger,
Aye.
Todd Hernandez,
Aye.
Tom Weiser,
Aye.
Rosemary Lister,
Aye.
Alan Rex,
Aye.
Rachel Scheffler,
Aye.
James Warfel.
Yes.
Thank you, and congratulations, Alan and Joe, on your new 3-year term.
I'm gonna play hooky a little bit so Joe gets it.
Okay, well, I hear you're doing an outstanding job down there, and we thank you for doing that.
Especially on steak night or something, right?
I was going to say, Dr. Russian seemed pretty happy that the both of you are coming back, so that makes sense now. Like I get it. I did inform Dr. Russian you were coming back.
Yeah. Good, thank you. Moving on to the agenda, at this time we'll offer courtesy of floor once again to anyone listening in with us this evening who would like to address the board. If you would, please raise your hand on your Zoom device and we'll pipe you in. We're taking a look to see if there's anybody waiting to be recognized.
I see no one, Mr. Dellinger.
And there is no one raising their hand.
Hold on, yeah, I do have one.
We do have one.
Mr. Bailey, you have the mic.
Thank you very much. I put a question online as well, but you know, we talk a lot about the restrictions from the state and the need to stay with the hybrid model, but I'm not seeing a lot of discussion on what the board or the school corporation can do to improve the days that the students are learning online from their homes. Because I'll be honest, the amount of curriculum and the amount of learning that's being done on those online days it's woefully inadequate. And, you know, we're all in the same situation, but we've had a number of months now to try and improve that process. And I just don't see an improvement going on there.
Well, thank you, Mr. Bailey. Are there any specifics that you could address with the teachers or the principals of your children that you'd like to see improved on?
The main thing I think is just it's the overall volume of instruction. I mean, I've got an 8-year-old that if he sits down and does his Zooms and then the work outside of the Zoom meetings, if he's participating in school activities for more than 2 hours a day, I'd be surprised. And the discussion's already been had with the teacher in the school itself. So at Weisenberg Elementary, it's just not improving.
Mr. Bailey, you're welcome to give me a call that is different than what I've experienced and what I am familiar with. And so I can tell you that our school district has taken a stance that synchronous opportunities for our kids, even when they are at home, are important. And I can tell you other districts in the county and beyond have not done the same. And so we recognize that asynchronous opportunities, which our neighboring districts are providing, can't provide what we are providing. And I think our teachers have done what it is that we've asked of them in order to make the best of both worlds. You also, and I don't know the instructional model that you've chosen for your child, but if they are hybrid, the other thing that our folks are balancing is all of our children that are online, as well as all of the children that are sitting in front of them, and trying to balance all three and provide an adequate education to all. If you have specific suggestions you would like us to consider, you are welcome to email or call me.
I will be happy to. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Bailey. Please follow up with Mrs. Holman. Is there anybody else waiting to address the board?
There is. Mrs. Scanlon?
Yes, hi. I just wanted to thank everyone for the efforts that were put into planning, prepping, and the efforts to begin this school year. Despite the challenges of this year, both of my children have had very positive starts to their school year. We're so thankful to both their teachers who have provided structure in an uncertain time, who have provided an excitement for learning, and who have worked tirelessly to make this experience the best it can be. In a time that we can focus so much on negative aspects, there have been so many positives to the start of this school year. My children have grown immensely in areas of problem solving and self-motivation. We appreciate all that Northwestern School District has done, Weisenberg Principal, Mrs. Burlett, and the staff has done to make this school year go as smoothly as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Scanlon. It's always nice to hear some positive comments, and that really encourages all of us to work even harder to make it even better. Thank you, Mrs. Scanlon.
Absolutely. You're welcome.
There's one more, Mr.
One more online?
Yes, sir. Mr. Walbert, you have the floor.
Thank you, Troy. Just wanted to take a minute first to thank Leanne for all of her continuing help with the foundation and all the coordination that's been going on, especially with obviously everything.
Mr. Walbert, I don't mean to cut you off, but we do want to hear what you're saying, and if you could just speak a little louder, please.
Thank you. So I just wanted to thank Leanne for all the work that she's done with the foundation. Really greatly appreciate it. Additionally, I don't know if it was brought up before, but we've recently, our allocations committee has worked very closely with Leanne and the administration with regards to some continuing unexpected needs for online and hybrid learning. And we recently approved $70,000 to support that for smart boards in, I think, the elementary school. And we have the funding for that now, and we've been able to procure that. So I just wanted to mention that one.
So,
I'm just gonna go ahead
yeah,
and summarize.
I'm gonna just recap a little bit what you said, Mr. Walbert, because it was difficult, but I caught most of it because I knew what you were gonna say. So he thanked Mrs. Stitzel for her support and effort through supporting the foundation, but he also highlighted the importance of the foundation for the district by providing financial support in areas of need. Most recently, Mrs. Stitzel has worked with the foundation to identify a pain point for us with regard to smart boards, and they will be moving forward with a significant amount of money in the tune of $70,000 to help replace failing smart boards throughout our district that is desperately needed to manage all of these different modalities that we have going on in a classroom at any one given time. So, Mr. Walbert, did I capture all of that? I believe I did, but if there's anything else you'd like to add, let me know.
No, that was perfect. Thank you so much.
And thank you, DJ, for all your support and the leadership that you are providing with our foundation. We're blessed to have you in this district. Thank you.
No problem. Our pleasure.
One more?
Yes, sir. Mrs. Baker, you have the floor. One more? Yes, sir. Mrs. Baker, you have the floor.
Yeah, hi. This is Michelle Baker. I just wanted to,
One more? Yes, sir.
oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can. If you would just mute your speakers, because I think there might be an echo coming from your end.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not sure if you can hear me.
We can hear you. If you could just turn down your speakers on your device.
Is this better?
Yes.
I think that's better, Mrs. Baker.
Okay. A few things. I just wanted to concur with the earlier gentleman who had said Wednesdays are challenging. My middle schooler does have less than a couple of hours of work per day. The second thing, I was wondering if someone could explain the earlier statement of when going back to school, it would be initially 4 days per week. Does that mean Wednesday is still an asynchronous day, or did I misunderstand that?
I can certainly address that. Do you want to continue, or is that your only question? Okay, maybe you want to continue. Mrs. Baker, that was my statement. So what our teachers are doing currently on Wednesday and why they are synchronous and asynchronous on Wednesday is because our teachers are using Wednesday as the day to touch base with our online students, do planning to make sure that that information can get out to our online students that they don't see at all during the week. We are not a district that is as large as some other districts and able to have completely online teachers for our students. So some other districts were able to have completely online teachers that are just devoted to that. The majority of our teachers co-roster students that are in hybrid cohort A, hybrid cohort B, and our online children. And so they are managing all three groups of those children. And so even if we were to return to school in one or more grade levels in the future, as long as we continue to offer online, unless we are willing to hire online teachers to just teach the students that are solely online, the teachers would need time to work with those students because they don't see them any other time. And so when I say 4 days a week, my proposal, as long as we continue to have families who are interested in online and choosing that as an option, our teachers would need that Wednesday or whatever day we choose. We actually chose Wednesday to align with LCTI because LCTI is also on a hybrid schedule and has selected Wednesday. We originally were looking at Friday, but aligned with the county at Wednesdays. And so that all the other school districts that are hybrid are doing the same thing and aligning with LCTI, so the high school students are on the same schedule. So that's the reason why I said, and I was the one who said 4 days per week for the return. If at some point the numbers of people who select online, we will, just like we do with class sizes in any other regard, be responsive to that need and decrease teachers, or most recently actually increase teachers in our online option for students. And so we will continue to be responsive to the data as it exists, but I suspect through at least the majority of the year, there will be families at every grade level that will want to continue to keep their children online. And this is a more cost-effective option than sending all of those students to a private cyber school. And so we are one of the only districts that has not lost the number of students to cyber school as a result of the model we implemented and the way in which we implemented it.
Okay, well, thank you for the
Welcome. I didn't know if you had additional questions. I was just going to let you finish.
No, I was just curious. So thank you.
No problem.
Thank you, Mrs. Baker. Dr. Sosnovic, are there any other people waiting online?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you. And thank you for addressing the board this evening, for those of you who are still with us. And at this point, we will move into communications from our secretary, Mr. Cassiano. Do you have anything?
I don't have anything tonight.
And we'll move into administrative and building sharing. And Dr. Sosnovic, will you walk us through the administrators who are with us this evening?
Absolutely. In no particular order, Mr. DeVico.
I have nothing to share tonight. Thank you.
Mrs. Pooley.
Nothing further. Thank you.
Mrs. Stitzel.
I have nothing further. Thank you.
Mr. Chief Netter Ostek.
I have nothing to add to this evening. Thank you.
Mrs. Burlett.
I have nothing to share this evening. Thank you.
Mr. Zimmerman.
Well, my teammates are probably going to punch me after this, but I just have a few brief statements. First of all, it's been a long road since July. This board and this administration has been extremely supportive with our return to sport plan. And on behalf of the student athletes and my coaches, thank you for that. I do want to acknowledge the dedication and the hard work of our student athletes and our coaches, and I'm very happy to report that all of our fall programs qualified for the postseason. I don't think any of us would have believed we would have been here even a month ago, but we're here and we're very appreciative of the opportunity. Our field hockey team won last night and advanced to the league semifinals. They'll play Bangor tomorrow at Bangor. Boys soccer also won last night, advanced to the league semifinals tomorrow. That's going to be versus Moravian Academy at Moravian. Our cross-country team raced today in the league championship meet. Our boys team actually placed second in that meet, but they were the regular season champs at 17-1. So very proud of them. And Angelina Klein, I believe, was top place finisher for our girls as an individual. I believe she was a fifth place winner. I didn't get to review those results quite yet. Our girls soccer team won tonight. They advanced actually to the championship game on Saturday. That's at a time and a place to be determined. So again, truly appreciate all your support on that. And now if I could just have a brief moment to take off my AD hat, which I don't often do, and just talk as a proud lifetime resident of this district and a parent of two boys, one in 6th and one in 8th grade. And as much as my boys love going to school, they have been raised to roll with the punches and play the cards they are dealt with to the best of their ability. Their hybrid experience, however, has been absolutely outstanding. And that is thanks to the teachers that they have at the middle school. So Mr. DeVico, please pass that on. these teachers, it's amazing what they're doing, and my hat's off to them. And I do agree. I think I heard it earlier today. I get to sit in on a lot of league meetings, a lot of District 11 meetings, and meetings across the state. And people are truly envious of what Northwestern is doing by taking a bad hand that was dealt to us and playing it to the best of our ability. A lot of people are looking to Northwestern, and I'm very proud to say I'm from here. So that's all. Thank you for the time, Mr. Delker.
Mr. Oakes.
Nothing further, thank you.
Mrs. Edmonds.
Nothing further, thank you.
Mrs. Yadish.
I have nothing further this evening, thank you.
Mrs. Frisbee.
Nothing, thank you.
Mrs. Matika.
Nothing.
That brings it to me. And I'm going to turn to my right and look at Janine. And Janine, I want you to know that I'm going to truly miss you immensely. You are very much a large part of my successful transition into this district. We've worked together very closely over the last, I'll say, 18 months. And you've seen the highs and the lows of everything that's happened within recent times, and you've been a solid rock for Jen and I. And I'll always consider you a tiger, and I'll never forgive you for leaving.
I have one more thing. I certainly teased me earlier when I said, what kind of food do I want from Katie? And I said, where's your phone number?
Zesty sweet.
When I call you and say, what, I need to teach somebody what to order for me. And no, I ordered for myself, but I couldn't remember. And so I certainly echo Dr. Ciscone's comments. We wish you the best of luck in your home district, but we miss you. One other thing, in addition to Janine, certainly this is her last meeting. Christy will, as I said, be certainly taking over, and we will maybe come visit her with someday. One additional thing, just as a follow-up to the last comment that Mrs. Baker made, certainly there's never been the eyes into each one of our classrooms as there is right now. I would say one of the parents mentioned something about the amount of time that is spent on classroom assignments. Our teachers certainly, when they're teaching or when they're planning, are planning for a variety of different levels. And that's something certainly that you don't always see that happens when it happens in the classroom, or don't always see or into that classroom to be able to see that ability. And so I would just say that the amount of time can't necessarily just be taken on the core of the amount of time. And so they're doing a variety of different instructional opportunities and lectures, and then assignments and extension assignments. But it also is a variability based on the learner and the ability for them to go through whatever work it is the teacher assigned. And some of the students need additional assistance. That might not be your son or daughter. They might be someone who goes through work rather quickly. And that's all of the things the teacher balances within the classroom, and or after your child is certainly working, hopping on a small group Zoom with a student who needs additional assistance. And so those are some of the things certainly to consider when you're thinking about the amount of time. And I think it was Mr. Bailey who said, no more than X amount of work that an assignment is, or a student is doing on a daily basis. That's really the partnership between the teacher and the assignment and the parent, trying to work together to provide the best opportunity in the not so great circumstance. So, certainly keep that in mind as you consider those comments.
Thank you, Dr. Holman. This is
right.
Board chairing, let's begin with our Zoomies with Mr. Cassiano.
Good evening, everyone. I just make a few comments here. I'd like to congratulate all the retirees on retiring from Northwestern. And I'd like to personally thank Janine for all she has done, particularly being the secretary on the board. I have to sign a lot of documents, and she always keeps them straight for me. Sometimes I feel that she's my personal assistant by calling me, emailing me, texting me, and just getting in touch with me to get up there. And when I get up to the school to sign these documents, they're always in order with little tabs, sign here. And I really appreciate that. And I wish her the best of luck.
Thank you, John. Mr. Lizer.
Thanks. Yeah, just a real quick thank you to Janine for everything she's done, obviously to support the board as well as the school. Best of luck. And thanks to our teachers and staff. Obviously, this is a difficult time. Completely understand the situation they face, and obviously here to support however we can. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Hernandez.
Yeah, I'd like to wish the retirees good luck in their next journey here. I'd like to wish the fall sports teams good luck in the playoffs and continued success. I know they had a good fall season. And I'd just like to say good luck to Janine as well. You'll be missed. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Rex.
Yes, I also want to thank Janine and wish her the best of luck in your endeavors over there on the other side. And we hope to see you again. I remember going to Lehighton for baseball. It was the worst field in the league. It was all rocks. They've come a long way up there.
Thanks. This is Shepherd.
Janine, thank you for entertaining my children for a number of years in your office.
I still have Gracie's 2 quarters.
Thank you. Good luck every night. Thank you. And Jason, this is a thank you, a shout out to you as parents of student athletes. We didn't think that we'd have a season at all. And as much as the kids have enjoyed playing, parents have equally as much enjoyed being able to see their players play. So thank you for that.
So ditto to everything everyone said, and I also reached out to Mr. Zimmerman, and he didn't let any of the details go by unnoticed, like the flowers at homecoming and senior night, and I just was really impressed with that level of detail. So the teachers, the staff, the administration, and the parents, I'm really impressed with the professionalism that I'm seeing and that ability to look at the silver lining and yet also be candid about any kind of frustrations and knowing that we can work through this the best we can. So just appreciative. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Walker.
Yes, also congratulations to the retirees. I actually had the pleasure of working with several of these people as colleagues. Mrs. Sake, Mrs. Artewine, Mrs. Wesley, and Mrs. Taylor over the years. So I know the quality of their contribution to the school district, and as is true with Mrs. Pertinio, they are lost. So I wish them well, and certainly Janine the same to you. Thank you for your support and your responsiveness over the last few years. It's been very much appreciated.
Thank you. Joe?
Keep it more personal. Crimson and white is not as nice a color. However, thank you very much. No, John's sentiments are mine too, because you stay on top of it. I think you will be missed. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Joe. And I as well, I don't think I could say it any better than Troy did about our loss and having you here and working with us through this difficult year, especially. But you've always been professional, always came with a smile, and pleasant to be around. And like John said, the efficiency you had with dealing with all these documents we had to sign is amazing. And as far as I know, there have never, ever been any mistakes or slip-ups with anything that you put through the system here. But thank you for all that you've done for the Tigers here at Northwestern, and best wishes at Lehighton in your hometown, in your new career. And we're going to miss you. But you be well, and Godspeed.
I will miss everyone too. I truly appreciate the opportunity I've had here. Everyone has been really wonderful. It's a great experience, and I do not believe in goodbyes. I will definitely keep in touch with everyone.
You don't have a choice. JJ gave me a phone number.
Jen will be calling me on a daily basis. I'll be ordering her food at Keegan.
Okay. The meeting announcements are on your device. We have 2 meetings in November. The workshop is November 4th, day after the election. The regular board meeting will be November 18th, at which time Mr. Hernandez will be presiding over the meeting. And we will have a brief executive session after this meeting immediately following for personnel reasons. And will that be a different login for the people on Zoom?
Correct, I'm sending it now.
Okay, so it's being sent out now. So as soon as you log in, we will begin our executive session. And with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion by Mr. Fatsinger. Second by Mr. Rex. Meeting adjourned. Thank you for attending.
Can you send that to Jeff as well?